Number 9. SHANESHA Taylor. One of the most divisive news stories to make headlines in 2014 involved a mother leaving her 2 children in a hot car to attend a job interview. 35-year-old SHANESHA Taylor was hoping to land a position with State Farm Insurance in Scottsdale, Arizona, but failed to arrange for someone to watch her 2-year-old and 6-month-old sons. Not wanting to miss the opportunity, she left the boys in her SUV, where the temperature rose to a sweltering 100 degrees. Someone heard crying coming from inside the vehicle and reported it to the police, who charged Taylor with 2 counts of child abuse. She explained her predicament and said that the interview was during the kids' nap time, so she expected them to sleep through it. Taylor claimed she was homeless, and her circumstances generated an outpouring of sympathy and support. Generous donors contributed over $100,000 to a crowdfunding campaign to help the down-and-out mom get on her feet. Taylor couldn't sell her narrative to everyone, though. To some, the details of her story just didn't add up, especially after her own family declared that she was not homeless and that she could have asked them to watch her children during the interview. Others believed that there was simply no excuse for a parent to put their kids in danger, no matter how difficult the circumstances. Taylor's lawyer argued that as a veteran, a mentality gripped her that made her feel obligated to handle her responsibilities without asking for help. A judge sentenced her to 18 years of probation and required her to attend parenting classes. Number 8. Matthew Contreras. When his live-in girlfriend of several years arrived home from work in early 2022 and fell asleep, 25-year-old Matthew Contreras got curious and went through her phone. She woke up to a slew of cheating accusations based on a text conversation with a male coworker. Nothing was going on between them, according to the woman. Contreras had misread the situation, but this convinced him she was being unfaithful, and he allegedly beat her up. He then held a knife to his girlfriend's throat, used the knife to cut her hair, and threatened her with a handgun, placing the barrel right up against her forehead and into her mouth. The horrifying campaign of abuse continued as Contreras threw her to the floor, kicked her, and doused her with bleach. She later told the police that whenever she tried telling her boyfriend that she hadn't cheated, he got even angrier. For 2 days, he held her hostage, and while terrorizing his girlfriend seemed to be the man's priority, he made the time to attend a job interview. He forced his victim into the car at gunpoint, along with the couple's 1-year-old son, and drove across state lines from Texas to a prison in New Mexico, where he hoped to become an employee. During the drive, police pulled the vehicle over for speeding, but the terrified girlfriend kept quiet. Contreras went into the job interview alone, giving the woman an opportunity to escape. She flagged down an officer who works at the facility, and he took her to a hospital for medical treatment. Meanwhile, instead of working in jail, Contreras found himself locked up in one. He posted a $100,000 bond, and they released him, but he ended up back behind bars just days later on a weapons charge, and is currently being held without bail. Number 7. Inyubong Umoran. A young Nigerian woman named Inyubong Umoran left her home in the state of Akwa Ibom one day for a job interview last year and never returned. A friend who called her on the day she disappeared said that she answered the phone and started screaming. Concerned locals came together to search for Inyubong, whose remains were found in a shallow grave on a property belonging to a man named Uduyak Akpan. The suspect had lured the unsuspecting job seeker to his home under the guise of owning a farm and needing someone to work as a secretary. Akpan later told the press that when Inyubong arrived, he confessed that there was no farm and that he lied about having a job to offer her because he wanted to have sex with her. He claimed she agreed, as long as they used protection, which he allegedly removed during the act. Inyubong was furious and supposedly attacked Akpan, who lashed out and killed her. Police described Akpan as a serial rapist and accused some of his family members of helping him cover up the crime. Meanwhile, the defendant's father claimed Akpan suffers from schizophrenia, which alters his sense of reality, and that he has a history of being hospitalized for his mental issues. The suspect had already confessed to killing Inyubong, but retracted his statement, claiming that he had a fever when he was being interrogated and was being pressured by the police. But the story didn't hold up in court. Akpan ended up pleading guilty to murder, but denied ever raping the victim. Number 6. Chelsea Wilson. In 2016, an unsuspecting father in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, found himself entangled in federal drama when he thought he was dropping his 24-year-old daughter off at a job interview, and she instead robbed a bank. He assumed that his daughter, Chelsea Wilson, was planning to work at the financial institution and waited in his SUV while she went inside. When Chelsea returned to the vehicle with a large amount of money, she told her dad that they had offered her a position and had even given her a cash advance. He didn't find the situation suspicious, even though his daughter was wearing a wig, a hat, and sunglasses. Her father later learned that Chelsea had walked to the local TD Bank branch with a handwritten note, demanding all the $50 and $100 bills in the drawer. She made off with $300 total. The robbery was like 3 others that had recently occurred in the area, and the evidence led federal investigators to Chelsea's home. She reportedly admitted to committing multiple thefts that happened in the area recently, and said that she'd used the money to buy groceries. Number 5. SHAMEEK ABSALOM DUNN. Earlier this year, 26-year-old SHAMEEK ABSALOM DUNN went to a job interview at a tanning salon in Trussville, Alabama. But he had other things on his mind than actually getting a job there. He met the 19-year-old woman business manager at Palm Beach Tan and tried to sexually assault her. The victim fought her attacker off and escaped with minor injuries. She reported the terrifying incident to police after Dunn fled the scene. It didn't take long for authorities to track him down, since he used his real name and contact information on the job application. They charged the man with attempted rape and first-degree kidnapping. They released him from the Jefferson County Jail on a $90,000 bond. He is currently awaiting his next court date. Number 4. Riley Leon. Earlier this year, 16-year-old Riley Leon was on his way home from a job interview at a Whataburger restaurant in Elgin, Texas, when he suddenly found himself caught up in a violent tornado. The powerful winds knocked the young man's red Chevy pickup truck onto its side, then flipped it back upright. Shocking footage shows the vehicle being tossed around like a toy before Riley continued driving. He told local station NBC5 that he had just called a friend to deliver the good news that he had gotten a job at Whataburger when the tornado appeared out of nowhere. Not knowing what else to do, the teen held onto the steering wheel and prayed for his life. The tornado damaged the truck to the point it was barely able to drive. Riley drove it far enough to get it out of the road, then called his mom and the police. He emerged from the ordeal with some injuries, including some scratches and a fractured back. The condition of his beloved vehicle devastated him, which his father passed down to him. The story was all over the news and caught the attention of staff members at the Bruce Lowry Chevy dealership in Fort Worth. The generous business gave him a brand new red pickup truck to the young man, along with $15,000 for any other expenses he might need to take care of. The kind gesture moved Riley and his family to tears. They accompanied him to the dealership to pick up the vehicle, which may not replace the sentimental value of the truck that was damaged in the tornado, but will at least get the grateful teen to and from his new job. Number 3. CHAYLENE Martinez. A TikToker named CHAYLENE Martinez went viral recently for disastrous job interview footage that she uploaded to the social media platform. The young woman was submitting a digital application to SkyWest Airlines while talking to a friend on the phone. She began complaining to him about the company's interview questions and sarcastically mocking the material without noticing that she was recording herself on the application, which only gives candidates one shot at uploading their video. After that, she began applying lipstick. CHAYLENE was visibly shocked when she realized she had just put her foot in her mouth and that the people in charge of making hiring decisions would hear her bad-mouthing the company. She apologized and did her best to save face, but she didn't get the job. The rejected applicant made the most out of the embarrassing ordeal and uploaded the cringeworthy yet hilarious footage to TikTok. It's received over 7 million views so far. Sadly, things didn't get better for CHAYLENE, whose boss found out from the viral video that she was looking for another job, leaving her worried that she might get fired. Number 2. ESETHU MCINJANA. While waiting to interview for a job at a hotel in Cape Town, South Africa in 2019, 23-year-old ESETHU MCINJANA sat on a public bench and began snapping some selfies. She had pressed the building's buzzer, but nobody answered, so she simply waited for someone to let her inside. A police officer approached the young woman and asked her what she was doing on the property. ESETHU explained that she was there for a job interview, but the cop didn't believe her because it was a Sunday, and she didn't think the business held interviews on the weekends. The overly suspicious patrolman began searching through ESETHU's bag and throwing her belongings onto the ground. A disturbing cell phone video shows the officer rifling through the woman's stuff and pulling out a house key with a garage door remote attached. She accused ESETHU of using the device to break into and rob people's vehicles. ESETHU responded to the baseless allegations by explaining that the remote didn't even work and she was just using it as a key holder. But the officer didn't believe her. She took ESETHU's phone, put the woman into a police van, handcuffed her, shouted at her, and kept her in a jail cell overnight. ESETHU missed her job interview. Her mother went to the police station to smooth out the misunderstanding and clarify that the remote was broken and that her daughter certainly wasn't using it to break into cars. They finally released ESETHU when, in the words of a law enforcement spokesperson, they determined that the chances of a successful prosecution were unlikely. After being needlessly detained and harassed by someone she was taught to trust and whose job is to keep people safe, ESETHU said she was thinking about hiring a lawyer and complaining to the Human Rights Commission. She told the press that she was too embarrassed to contact the hotel, but the story went viral and captured the business's attention. A manager reached out to ESETHU and invited her to come by for an interview. It went well, and they offered her a paid internship. She said that she was grateful for the opportunity, which would provide her with a much-needed income to help support her family. Number 1. Laura Browder. Single mother Laura Browder had just moved to Houston, Texas in 2015 when she landed a job interview with a prospective employer who asked her to meet in the food court at a local shopping mall. She didn't have time to arrange childcare beforehand, so she brought her 6-year-old daughter and 2-year-old son with her and seated them nearby. Throughout the interview, the kids were only 30 feet away from Laura, and she monitored them the entire time. The meeting went well and ended with a job offer, which she eagerly accepted. What seemed like a good day took a disappointing turn when Laura returned to her children only to be met by a police officer, who arrested her for allegedly abandoning the kids. In a statement, she said that she would never intentionally put her son and daughter in harm's way, and that the interview was for a promising position that would have led to career growth. It's unclear whether the ordeal affected the job opportunity. Police handcuffed Laura at the scene and brought her in front of a judge, who understood that the woman had made a mistake but wasn't a terrible parent. They returned the case to the mother's care, and they ultimately dropped the charges. Thanks for watching. Would you rather live with the embarrassment of burping loudly during a job interview or get stuck working next to someone who eats onions and garlic for lunch every day? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye.